Texas governor pardons man convicted of killing protesters at the 2020 BLM rally. Let's take a look.
Tonight, a man convicted of murder for killing an armed Black Lives Matter protester is walking free. Former U.S. Army Sergeant Daniel Perry was serving a 25-year prison sentence for fatally shooting Air Force veteran Garrett Foster in 2020. Today, Perry was pardoned by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Now, just to remind you what happened, prosecutors say that Perry drove his SUV through a red light into a crowd of protesters in Austin. He was apparently approached.
Yeah. Remember, dude, this is like textbook, okay? It is, if you don't know anything, if you just like only know a couple things about Texas, you will probably come to the conclusion that like when a white man goes to a Black Lives Matter rally, okay, in his car, and then shoots and kills one of the BLM protesters and then gets convicted of murder by a Texas court, okay, beyond a reasonable doubt, it probably is like pretty open and shut, right? It's probably pretty fucking open and shut. So in that situation, the fact that like, if you don't know anything else, like, come on, bro. Like this is a open and shut case. This is black and white as it gets. Okay. Even the concealed carry CCW subreddit said this was murder and half of them dream of being able to shoot someone. Exactly. And doesn't the pardon imply that they're guilty, but the crime is okay? The pardon can be seen as like someone who was falsely imprisoned. It doesn't always mean that like, obviously they are, you have to be convicted guilty to be pardoned. But in this circumstance, they're saying that it shouldn't be a crime. That's what Governor Greg Abbott is saying. Now, there was so much about Daniel Perry. There was so much in the court case. Investigations were obviously conducted, and they found that he genuinely did have racist intent. Okay, openly saying that he was he was saying a whole bunch of anti-Semitic shit, whole bunch of Islamophobic shit, whole bunch of anti-black shit, trying to text teenagers in chat rooms. Like, this guy had it all. Okay. This guy had it all. And we will cover all of that in a second if CNN doesn't get to it. Okay? But the real reason why Governor Greg Abbott did this is because he wanted to say Daniel Perry did the right thing. Go to a Black Lives Matter protest in his car and then shoot and kill one of the protesters. That's it. The protester he killed, for the record, is white as well. He was armed, and he was pushing his, I believe she's quadriplegic. I don't want to get it wrong. His wife, who was in a wheelchair. He was also a veteran. He was pushing his black wife in a wheelchair. He was the caregiver for his wife. And this dude straight up fucking shot and killed him, got convicted in a Texas jury, and he still was pardoned by Governor Greg Abbott. Now, the reason why people in positions of power do stuff like this is to basically say, I mean, it's similar to the Kyle Rittenhouse case a little bit, is that we will defend you. The institutions will ultimately defend you if you go out and do stuff like this. That is what this is. Okay? He openly also showcased his intent, by the way, Daniel Perry. This is one page of the 76 that were just released. Here, Daniel Perry says, I will only shoot the protesters in front and push the pedal to the metal. I might have to kill a few people on my way to work. They are rioting outside my apartment complex. Justin Smith, can you legally do so? If they attack me or try to pull me out of the car, then yes. If I just do it because I'm driving by, then no. Yeah, right, law. Make sure to use only one shot on the protesters, so if they try to flood you, you got enough rounds for them all. I will only shoot the ones in the front and push the pedal to the metal. You got that much control over your bloodlust? Lol, boy, have you matured? All you would beat the fuck out of them, then rape a few. Look, I would probably barely have ammo left over with this tactic. I have to conserve my ammo for the trip back to home. No protesters go near me or my car. Can you catch me a N-word, the old school N-word, Spanish word, daddy? That is what I am hoping. Yay, says Justin Smith. That's the guy. That's the guy that was just pardoned. Like, there is no clearer. This is the reason why he got convicted, okay? It wasn't even like a Kyle Rittenhouse situation where they actually struck from the record Kyle Rittenhouse, the footage of him like looking at a bunch of black people outside of a CVS and being like, I'm gonna shoot them. Like, where they literally struck that off the record. This is not vague. Don't say pretty vague still. What do you mean? How is this vague? If this is vague, there is nothing that you will ever be convinced of. This is literally a dude saying, I am going to go to a protest and shoot and kill black people with racist intent. I have racist intent and I want to go and I'm fantasizing about killing black people and Black Lives Matter protesters. The idea that this is vague is insane to me. And you are wrong. It's not like a jury of his peers found that to be vague. A jury of his peers looked at that and went, okay, that shit's a little too racist for our taste. When you pardon a person like this, you're basically saying, yeah, no, I love what he did. I think what he did was good. And I want to make sure that, you know, if it happens again, I'll defend it again. Implying that you want it to happen again. Let's continue.
By Foster, who was openly carrying an assault-style rifle, which is legal in Texas. Foster then motioned for Perry to lower his window, at which point Perry shot Foster with a handgun. The defense argued that Perry's actions were justified as self-defense, but the jury, they went on to convict him. Now, Governor Abbott made an unusual request for the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles to carry out an expedited review before Perry was even sentenced. Now, that board unanimously voted to pardon Perry and restore his firearm rights earlier today.
Like, that dude can now have his gun again. Okay? I don't know what to say about it. I mean, this is just white supremacy in action, in full display. Okay? That's it. That's it.
I want to bring in Sheila Foster. It's Garrett Foster's mom, and the attorney representing her, Quentin Brogdon. Sheila Foster, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It is heartbreaking every time I hear about and remind the audience about what has happened to your family, to your beloved child. He was convicted of murder on Daniel Perry on April 7th of last year. The very next day, Governor Abbott was speaking openly about wanting to pardon your son's killer. What is it you're feeling tonight?
Reading the governor's pardon, it appears as though nothing that was done in trial and nothing that was reviewed by the pardon board was included in his pardon. That is all stuff that was said by the defense attorney in the beginning. It's not anything that the pardon board discovered. All of that stuff was debunked at trial. Everything the governor put in his pardon letter was proven wrong during trial.
Did you feel when the conviction happened and he was found guilty, how did you feel about losing your son and justice and accountability at that point?
When they announced that he was guilty,
Yes.
that was a relief. That was a relief. And I've slept better that night than I had in nearly 3 years. And I woke
now?
up the next
Yeah.
morning and it was so peaceful. And then I literally was basking in peace that morning and thanking God that we finally got justice. And then I got a text message from my friend telling me about the governor's tweet. And I thought, there's no way he would actually do that. There's no way he's actually gonna do that. And then here we are.
Is that how you found out? You mean this is the way that you found out, through a tweet, that the governor's office didn't contact you, or you didn't have the advance notice?
No, it was through a tweet. When I found out that my son was murdered, I found out by Whitney's mother. The authorities didn't even contact me, his next of kin. I had to find that out from his wife's mother. And my daughter had previously already learned it on Facebook. So nothing involving this case is normal. Nothing is ethical. Nothing is right. Everything that has happened is wrong on so many levels. And I don't understand why it is so crystal clear to me that this man needs to be in prison for the rest of his life, not a mere 25 years. Why he wouldn't even have to serve a year. It doesn't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. Governor Abbott wouldn't pardon him.
I mean,
he wouldn't pardon him if this was a Trump rally. If this was a Trump rally and somebody drove into that crowd and gunned one of those people down, do you think Governor Abbott would pardon that killer?
Your question, I think, is swirling around so many people's minds, and I think they have their answers quite clearly. I want to bring you in here, Quentin. It's unbelievable to think of how this mother has had to learn about a pardon for someone convicted of killing her son. You were considering filing a civil case even before the murder conviction. Is she without any legal recourse now? Are you going to be able to pursue any legal action now that he has been pardoned?
Laura, thank you. We decided, Sheila and I, and Sheila's one of the bravest clients I've ever represented, not to go forward with the civil case because there was accountability in the wake of the conviction of Daniel Perry. But now the governor's turned the rule of law on his head. He seems to have forgotten a basic truth that our founding fathers knew well, namely that respect for the rule of law begins with respect for the will of citizen jurors. And in this case, there were 12 citizen jurors who gave up 2 weeks of their lives to consider the evidence. They heard from 40 witnesses. They deliberated 15 hours. And at the end of that, those same 12 citizen jurors voted unanimously to convict Daniel Perry. And assuming the governor or anybody else who would say this is a travesty of justice is correct, then there are 2 separate courts of appeals in Texas that can be allowed and should have been allowed to weigh in on this and potentially reverse it if it needed to be reversed. But when the judge steps in with 2 big feet and undoes the will of citizen jurors, a legitimate question arises. Is this based on the merits or is it based on some crass political calculation?
Yeah, it absolutely is based on crass political calculation. The calculation is, we like what Daniel Perry did. We actually think it's awesome that he went to a Black Lives Matter rally with racist intent to shoot BLM protesters. And he actually carried out this violent attack, which even a Texas jury unanimously agreed was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt for racist intent and murder. And Governor Greg Abbott likes that and doesn't think that that's a bad thing, which is why he pardoned this person. Let me be very clear. Let me be very clear. Governor Greg Abbott is saying this is good. What he did, what Daniel Perry did, was good, and we want more of it. This was his statement. The Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles conducted an exhaustive review of U.S. Army Sergeant Daniel Perry's personal history and the facts surrounding the July 2020 incident and recommended a full pardon and restoration of full civil rights of citizenship. Among the voluminous files reviewed by the board, they saw that he was also like a far-right neo-Nazi furry, among other things. You know, they saw all of the text messages and were like, this is awesome. We like this. Okay? They considered the information provided by the Travis County District Attorney, the full investigative report on Daniel Perry, plus a review of the testimony provided at trial. Texas has one of the strongest stand your ground laws of self-defense that cannot be nullified by a jury or a progressive district attorney. I thank the board for its thorough investigation and I approve their pardon recommendation. It's insanely dangerous to give people like this the idea that there is no consequence for murdering people. The thin veil of rule of law is falling before our eyes. Guys, that is the whole point. There is no difference. I mean, this is the most violent version of exactly what happened at California's University of California, Los Angeles campus a couple weeks ago at this point. Students were peacefully demonstrating at an encampment. The university sent the police as they stood idly by and watched the racist violence against the pro-Palestinian peaceful demonstrators unfold. And then the very next day, the university used that violence that the students in the encampment experienced as a reason to then do state-sponsored violence. Okay? The goal there was to show everyone and anyone, if there is a violent lynch mob, then that's great. We will literally conduct and commit the very same desires of said violent lynch mob. This is not new in American history. Okay? This is not new at all in American history. This is exactly the same shit that happened. This is exactly the same shit that happened time and time again in American history, both in contemporary U.S. history and also American history as a whole. What is state-sponsored violence you're referring to? Breaking up the encampment? Yes. Sending the police to violently apprehend and beat the shit out of the student protesters for peacefully demonstrating their First Amendment rights. This is fascism, by the way. This is white supremacy and it's fascism, straight up. Make no mistake. And it happens in many different ways, but this is one of the most glaringly obvious instances of American fascism and American white supremacy. That's it. The conservative cheering this don't know what dangerous game they're playing. No, they're cheering this because they know exactly what the dangerous game is. Because if someone tried to do a stand your ground around Daniel Perry, they would go to jail. They would get the death penalty maybe. They know that. This is the dynamic. Okay? This is why I always say you have to be very careful with the way you conduct yourself if you are on the left, if you're on a progressive side, if you're against the government in a meaningful way and not in like an edgy teenager kind of way where they're like, you know, you're a progressive, you're woke. Of course the government will never come after you because you're progressive and woke, and so is the government. This happened in the South during racist lynch mobs in general as well. Historically, the police almost always side with fascist demonstrators, defend fascist demonstrators, and rarely ever apprehend fascist demonstrators, no matter how violent they get. If you defend yourself against fascist demonstrators, and if you recall, this did happen under the Trump administration, just like this incident as well, Trump will send the marshals after you and execute you point blank and then flex on your dead body. This literally happened. The reversal of this already occurred. Okay? In Portland, where an anti-fascist who also had a weapon, okay, shot and killed a Patriot Prayer Nazi. Okay? After that Patriot Prayer Nazi went over, Michael Rennell was his name, yes. A Patriot Prayer Nazi went over with bear mace and was like attacking BLM protesters. Michael Rennell was hunted down by marshals directed by Donald Trump, who demanded his execution, and he got his execution. Donald Trump then turned around and said, look how awesome it is that we executed Michael Rennell. One day after his interview with Vice News. The idea that there is a equal standard under the law when it comes to fascist violence and anti-fascist defense against said fascist violence is ludicrous, is ridiculous. Okay? The reason why libertarians and fascists alike love posting the "don't tread on me" shit while simultaneously demanding that the police are more militant and more violent is because they live with the comfort of knowing that the state, which has a monopoly on violence, will always side with them when push comes to shove, will always defend them. That's precisely why January 6th was a unique moment. Not January 6th's immediate aftermath, of course, because the police didn't do shit on January 6th for the most part, with the exception of shooting and killing Ashley Babbitt, which I am still very critical of for the record. But they literally were shocked that there were any apprehensions after the fact, any investigations conducted after the fact, because they operated with the understanding that, like, what do you mean? This is my shit. Like, you're supposed to straight up be on my side. You're supposed to look the other way when I do violence, and you're supposed to defend me and join hands, as a matter of fact, when I do the violence. Daniel Perry bragged about killing a homeless man by accident. A review of Daniel Perry's cell phone extraction revealed native messages exchanged between Daniel Perry and a phone number saved in the device as Justin Smith on or about March 30th. Outgoing message: I killed a homeless man by accident. Outgoing message: the police already know and they let me go. Justin Smith: huh. Here's another outgoing message: am I racist for thinking the way Black Lives Matter movement is like a bunch of monkeys flinging shit at a zoo due to the fact that they demand white people give their houses to a poor black family and the way their protests always seem to turn violent? Outgoing message: for example, my parents own a 4-bedroom house and the BLM movement believe that my parents should give their house to a poor black family and pretty much live in a 1-bedroom house that they should buy with money they don't have. Once again, pure fantasy. But he believes it to be true. Here's Daniel Perry messaging someone named Rainbow about sleeping over together. Rainbow says they will get their driver's license on August 8th. Outgoing message: we can do that. How soon can you get ready? Rainbow says, like 15 minutes. I am on my way. Outgoing message: I am here. It should be noted that the review of Daniel Perry's cell phone extraction revealed messages between WhatsApp account Perry Daniel owner and WhatsApp account Rainbow on or about July 24th, 2020. On July 24th, 2020, an incoming message from Rainbow says, August 8th, I get my driver's license. There's an outgoing message back from Perry who says, cool. Some of the highlights. I'm trying to imagine the reaction from the right, and to be honest, from the media too. If a Democratic governor just pardoned a man found guilty of murder who had posted on social media, too bad we can't get paid for hunting Jews in Europe. Perry posted the above, but for Muslims. The New York Times also did an analysis, by the way, of how a U.S. task force killed an Antifa activist. That is what happens in this country. This is something to always pay attention to. Donald Trump, remember, for Mike Rennell, cheered his killing as retribution. Governor Greg Abbott, by the way, literally, again, the guy that he personally pardoned, okay, faces the question of whether to sign the pardon of a man who texted a 16-year-old, "I am going to bed, come up with a reason why I should be your boyfriend before I wake up," to a 16-year-old. He was routinely texting explicitly with 16-year-olds. He hit the full Monty